Hello and a warm welcome to Leading Opinion. Today in studio I have with me Anastacia Thompson, author of Always Anastacia. I wanted to share her impeccable story with you, a story of hope and courage. Anastacia Thompson grew up right here in Johannesburg and graduated as a medical doctor from the University of Pretoria. She has worked as a general practitioner in both the public and private sectors, as well as having a background in freelance journalism. Anastacia's special interest now is in promoting access to healthcare for transgender and gender non-conforming individuals. She is a vocal feminist and strives to further the visibility and understanding of transgender issues at every opportunity. Well, here she is in studio with me. A warm welcome. What a pleasure to meet you.
What a pleasure to be here.
I read your book. It came highly recommended, and it moved me on so many different levels. And I thought it was such a great opportunity to demystify the issues around transgender so people can really relate to your story and to other similar stories. What was it like for you, Anastacia, to actually spend a large part of your life not really identifying with who you truly are?
It was confusing, it was uncomfortable, and it was often very terrifying. I mean, it's kind of a difficult concept for me to really articulate,
Sure.
but recognizing that you don't fit in, recognizing that a lot of the expectations that are put on you by society, by the people around you, by friends, by family, in social circles, just don't feel right. And not being able to comprehend why, and sort of just accepting, well, this is my lot in life. I'm going to be on the fringes, I'm going to feel different, I'm going to be always uncomfortable, and I'm never really going to settle into who I am. And then sort of wading through that for years and years and years, until finally I found the tools and the resources to really make sense of what I'd been going through my entire life. And then obviously to be confronted with the decision, well, what do I do with this?
Yeah, it sounds terrifying. And so much of what you wrote and said in your book resonated with me personally, because I always say that we have challenges. Our challenges in life at an individual level comes in different packages. You know, when I started reading your book, I was fascinated with your journey of transition to transgender, because it was something new that I was tapping into as well. But by the time I got to page 15, and it was only page 15, the plot totally went out of the window for me, because it was like I was just connecting with this amazing person whose spirit was dancing literally on the pages, who was truly just expressing herself so authentically, and that really touched me. So the whole transgender just kind of went out of my head immediately, and it was just really connecting with your personal journey of growth, and that really was so profound for me as well, and I'm sure you get that a lot as well. And I'm sure that is really the story that you want to put out there around acceptance and around personal validation more than anything else.
You know, one of the really important concepts to me is agency over our narratives, and especially when you're dealing with trans identity, because it's something that has been seen through the lens of mainstream media for so many years, and always portrayed in that very stereotypical, very sensationalized, very objectified kind of way. You know, this concept of male to female, which is a term that it doesn't resonate with me at all. I was never male.
It's a cold approach,
It's cold, and it really just kind of shoehorns us into what people expect to see.
Sure.
So part of writing this book, you know, I set out to actively combat some of those tropes and some of those negative stereotypes that take our agency away. And I really wanted to say, well, this is my story. These are the experiences that I had that resonate with me. You know, it's not all about sex change. You know, don't minimize my experiences to something that is so
trivial,
inaccurate, and I mean, it's undermining.
Yes, exactly, it is. I mean, as a woman, I feel that way myself. You know, I don't like being objectified as a woman. And when I say your story resonated with me, it really resonated on that level, because I've went through many identity crises of my own in my own life, and it was extremely painful for me to really come out into my own self and to get away from the socialization, the indoctrination that I was subject to, from a religious, from a cultural perspective, society's expectations on the role of women, etc. So that is what really resonated with me at a very individual, at a very personal level. And the question that I really wanted to ask you, which I think might be a painful question as well, do you regret that it took you so long to really come into yourself? I'm sure it was terrifying and painful as I followed through your story and the transition that you put in this book. But do you regret that aspect, that it took you so long?
To be
Because it's the
perfectly,
fears within. I see it as we're fighting our own battle as well, within ourselves.
I mean, aren't we all? And, we fight that battle on different fronts. But the fact of the matter is we learn and we grow, and eventually we confront certain truths about ourselves. Sometimes the process is very much delayed. Might be about your political beliefs or your social beliefs or your religious beliefs or anything like that. Might be self-esteem or self-image. But, ultimately there are certain realities we all have to confront. To come back to your question and to be perfectly honest with you, I have mixed feelings. It's difficult not to feel a very deep sense of loss over the time that was taken away from me, those nearly 3 decades that I spent being uncomfortable in my own skin and sort of putting on this act for the sake of everyone around me at the expense of my own authenticity. So I can't say that I don't feel that.
Yeah, it was a personal journey and it was meant to come out at a specific time in your life, I suppose.
Well, that's the flip side of it.
Yeah.
How did those experiences that took place in that nearly 3-decade period of time shape me as an individual? Because the woman who sits in front of you today has a very clear idea of who she is and what she believes in and what she's passionate about and what she's prepared to fight for. And I don't know if I would have been privileged enough to have that sort of character development had it not been for the experiences that shaped me. In any event, I can't change it. So part of my journey is learning how not to be resentful of that, how to incorporate it into where I am now and where I can take it moving forward.
I think that's very valuable because I kind of resent wasting so much of time personally, and it's painful when you look back and you think how much of time, I'm talking about myself, I wasted on fears and issues that were so personal, because there's a lot of love out there, and that's something that also really stood out for me in your story, the amount of love, the outpouring support that you received and the acceptance, because I think personally, again, it's the fear of not being accepted, it's the fear of being rejected, it's the fear of being cut off from having access to the love that you had access to growing up as well, as imperfect as it may have been, because it's always imperfect in one way or another.
Yeah, there are some very sort of complicated childhood experiences that inform a lot of my attitudes, and part of that struggle comes out in the book. How do I embrace this authenticity when everything that I've been through up to this point in time has kind of conditioned me to think that I need to protect myself, that vulnerability is dangerous for me.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's something that is common to a lot of people. We all wrestle with that.
But it's a strength as well. There's duality to the conflicting emotions we feel. We're vulnerable as much as we're courageous.
Well, that's the resolution to it, and transition is never easy, not for anyone who goes through it, and it looks different for everyone who goes through it. I mean, I have to say that. In a lot of ways, my journey was informed by a lot of privilege, being white, upper middle class, college educated, all of that makes a difference, but it was still difficult for me, and in sort of making that decision that, or in, let me say, recognizing that if I wanted to survive, this was what I had to do. There were many things that I lost. There was a very tangible price that I paid for it. But the fact of the matter is, once you've lost so much, it becomes a lot easier to kind of just put yourself out there and say, well, this is me, there is nothing left. All of that material stuff, the trappings, the career, all of that, it's gone. All I'm left with is authenticity and integrity.
A wise person once said to me, when the vision on the inside is louder and more profound than all the voices on the outside, you have truly begun to master your life. And I think that everybody should really take cognizance of that, because we pay so much of attention to other people's opinions. What are some of the common obstacles that come up for people when they meet you and they have to interact with you as an individual, and they haven't really been exposed to the battles personal battles that you've been exposed to?
I mean, it's very context dependent. Through the course of my day-to-day life, unless someone says, I saw that interview that you did, I was on the website and I saw it and I recognize you. In my day-to-day life, the interactions are very mundane. I don't often get read as trans. It's just not a big deal for anyone. If someone knows who I am and they recognize what I am, sometimes that reputation brings with it a little bit of, I suppose, intimidation.
Yeah.
They don't really always know what to expect. Simply by existing, I challenge a lot of assumptions that society conditions all of us to make, about what sexual orientation and gender identity and how all of it fits together, and, whether we are tied to these assumptions and to these assignments and these judgments that are laid on us from outside sources. I mean, I call all of that into question just by being who I am. So I recognize sometimes that has the propensity to put people on the back foot.
Your whole career path has changed. Your whole life has changed since you took that very important step of coming out and really taking control of your own destiny. Tell us about how you are making a difference now and how you're assisting others. I'm sure it's been even more profound since you've come out.
It has, in a lot of ways, and I mean, it's been challenging. Again, you have to understand that, I had the typical altruistic dream of I want to become a doctor, I want to help people, and then suddenly I was confronted with this reality that my identity has made that profession sort of incompatible with who I am. There's just so much adversity in trying to keep doing the work that I'm doing. And even if I persevere in that, because perseverance is one of those few qualities that I do possess, even if I do endure all of it, I worry about the sustainability of the kind of difference that I could make. So it's really been a reconceptualization of my role in the world, and I've come to think of myself largely as a storyteller and an activist. And all of those experiences, all of the hardship, everything that I've been through empowers me to use all of that in order to connect with people and try to make a difference.
And what would you like to change? What is your vision? What would you really like to change in South Africa in terms of the processes that you had to follow from a medical profession, going through the transition, and also from a legislative position as well, in order for you to be recognized for the person that you truly are?
I want to say everything, because there are so many hurdles and there are so many roadblocks at different levels. Legislation is the one thing, and then actually going in and dealing with service providers, be it home affairs or be it doctors trying to gain access to care. All of these are barriers on different levels. And I think a lot of it really comes from the understanding and the values and the perceptions that we have of queer and trans folks specifically. So I think that's really where I'd say change needs to be targeted. It's how we relate to people and how difficult do we make it for them to live authentic lives. And I think that was really one of the very sort of hard-hitting realizations that I had, was because of this identity. People perceive me as being other, they perceive me as being a threat, and it's not a comfortable space to be in.
I always perceive myself as being other because I really celebrate that. I think it's wonderful just to be who you are and to be truly unique and not to be living in that tunnel vision approach to life, that this is the only way to fulfilling an inspired destiny. From one powerful woman to another that shared challenges on different levels. Thank you so much for your time. You're a true inspiration, and I wish you the very best in your work going forward, and I do believe you will make a difference. And let us know what's going on in your life. We'd love to hear more from you.
Thank you so much. I don't plan on going away anytime soon, and it's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.